Did, ain't it?
There you go.
We're missing.
I missed anybody. Mike just showed up, so.
Yeah, that's what
Hey, it's
you
good
know
look.
we're all here now. Yeah. Scoot down.
That was a pretty good picture, wasn't it? Yes. That was nice.
Yes.
I made it. I mean, it just looks nice. I saw it on Facebook. I said, I got to sign it. Is it going? Waiting for record, you know.
Someone's giving me a hint.
Those?
Those, like all those.
What's that?
Oh,
26. Yep. Could have read that myself.
That doesn't even look right.
I know.
does it?
I did, yeah, but that is right.
Good morning, everyone. We appreciate you being here for our RDC meeting this morning. Before we get started, we'll do a roll call. Nathan Gabhart,
Here.
Mark Haley,
Here.
Michael Keith,
Here.
T.C. Cook,
Here.
Alex Knapp.
Here.
Everyone is here and accounted for. Has everybody had the chance to review the minutes from our last meeting?
Yes.
If so, if there's any changes, if not, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so I have, get those? Okay. We did have an executive meeting on the 8th, and that is to cover some industrial things that we've been working on, so. Jason, good morning. Thanks for coming. We have our annual TIF report and gateway submission information. Thank you.
Jason Simler, Principal Baker Tilly. Thank you for having me back again this year. As was mentioned, to present the annual TIF report that is required by a statute that paid once every year. Just kind of go over the TIF areas, and we kind of go over historical tax increment, do our projections. Compared to the bonds outstanding, but congratulations, you no longer have any bonds outstanding. You've paid all those off early, so congratulations on that. But then also to answer any questions that you have. I think this is, in the past, this has been a good time for just kind of just general questions that, you know, maybe come up through your various meetings, and so I can hear and answer those questions. And talk about some of the new legislation as well. I'll kind of sprinkle that in as I go through the report. But as I go through the report, if you have any specific questions about the schedules themselves or just TIF in general, feel free to stop me. I'd be happy to address those. But I know we've done this for a number of years now, but we'll kind of go through the report. If you turn to page 1, we'll talk about the county's first TIF area, Area 1 or GPC TIF area. There's just a little paragraph there about when the TIF area was created and the reason why. Probably the most important piece of information on this page, and I know one we've talked about for a number of years, is this area, it expires January 27, 2027. So we can collect revenue for January 27, pay 28. That would be the last year of revenue that we're able to capture. We can always dissolve the TIF area earlier than that if we like, but by statute, the area will end, and all that assessed value, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a little bit, all that assessed value that we're currently capturing, that's generating the dollars that you're receiving every 6 months, that's going to start flowing through to the tax base by at least 2028 to help reduce tax rates. But until then, we're capturing the TIF from this area, and if you turn to page 2, we capture the tax increment from both the facility and the equipment. So on page 2 looks at the assessment from the real property of the facility. So you can see in 2025, the assessment was a little under $25 million, $24,992,000. Take that times the tax rate, and we collected $408,000 from the real property. For this year, you can see the assessment of the building did increase slightly. We have the 2026 tax rate, so based upon the current assessments, we should receive about $410,000 from the facility. You turn to page 3. We also, as you know, collect personal property from the equipment. So you see there, the second column, we have the assessment. You can see it was $71 million. of assessment in 2025, increased to $72 million in 2026. 27 isn't available yet. It will probably be available. I talked to their accountant. It'll probably be available in May when it's available for 27. But based upon 26 information, we're estimating 67 million. Depreciation, as equipment depreciates over time. So hopefully they've made some more investment last year will offset that. But right now we're just being conservative. We didn't assume any new investment. The third column there, you see the estimated abated assessed value. I know this has been kind of discussion for the last few months. We've always known that they had requested and were granted property tax abatement on their equipment for the investments they made, a few years ago. But they never did apply for it. They never filled out the correct paperwork to notify the assessor and the auditor's office to grant them the abatement until this year. And then, as you know, had those discussions, and they've amended those forms, and you guys have approved those and approved reimbursing them for a portion of the savings that they could have received in the last 3 years if they had done the correct procedures. But we have accounted for those. I've worked with their accountant and kind of helped them through the abatement calculations, and we kind of got on the same page. So based upon their current investment, you can see 2026, of that $72 million of assessment, they're getting about $11.9 million of abatement. So the net assessed value is about $60 million. So it generate about $985,000 of tax increment, as you can see on the far right. And again, based upon the 26 filings, you can see that tax increment's going to decrease a little bit in 27 and 28.
Jason, will that abatement on the estimated abated assessed value, will that continue on in 29 or?
Yes, yeah. I just stopped in 28 because that's when the TIF area ends.
So is the abatement like our traditional abatement that we had?
No, it was a 10-year abatement. You can see on footnote 2, the first 3 years were 30%.
Oh, okay, but it's a 10-year total abatement?
It's a 10-year total, and it increases because if you remember right, when we granted them the abatement,
okay,
we wanted to make sure it didn't hinder our TIF revenues, so we kind of backloaded the abatement.
so we can make that bond payment?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And then the abatement expires in which year do you?
I think it'll be about 2035, 36.
Okay, so it's a new abatement?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Did that a few years.
The next page 4, there is also some personal property in the facility that's not related to GPC, but since it's in the facility, we also capture that. It's about 2.9 million last year, 2.6 million this year. So it generates, anywhere from $44,000 to $48,000 of TIF the last 2 years. So page 5 combines the tax increment from the real property and the 2 personal property forms. So you can see in 2025, we estimated that you'd collect $1,630,000, and if you look at footnote 4, that is what you collected. So GPC paid their taxes, paid them on time. You can see in 2026, we're estimating that to be at $1,439,000. And again, the reason for the decrease is because we're now starting to apply the abatement that we should have applied. So I do want to keep in mind, and that $149,000 or $1,439,000 that we're going to be collecting this year, because of the agreement with the company to reimburse them $180,000 for prior abatement savings, you'll receive about, and that's going to be over 2 settlements. So your spring settlement is going to be about $90,000 less, and then your fall settlement this summer is going to be about $90,000 less. So you'll really want to subtract $180,000 from that $1.4 million, what you'll receive this year. So any questions on anything that we had discussed? Okay.
That's roughly the actual gain that you all are anticipating is that number on page 5 at 5.5.
Well, if the 5.5 less than 1.6, because you've already received that in 2025.
And
then
less
I would
than 180.
Then subtract out 180, exactly.
And with the SB1 with the personal property to 2 million, does that play any role in any of this?
Not in this, not
Because
in,
Those are the-
your TIF area, because you're right, that de minimis increases to 2 million, starting next year. But it's for only companies that have 2 million or less.
Okay, so
So-
it's not the first 2 million, it's
Correct.
just 2 million or
Yeah,
less.
that's a good question, because there's some misconception.
Yep.
It's not the first 2 million, it's exempt, but if you're a company that, and you own $1,999,000, you can find an exemption for all of it. But if you own 2,000,001, you don't apply.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
throw away some pencils, you
Yeah.
get in there, yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So page 6, again, this is more for the audience and others, but projects to be funded with these TIF revenues, again, we've always had bonds outstanding as an incentive to GPC, but you can also use TIF for public infrastructure or capital projects that are in serving or benefiting the area, as you know. Page 7, as just history of tax increment that's been collected since 2012, just so you can see how the tax increment has changed over the years. And then page 8 is the accounts balance as of April 2nd. So you could add this 1.9 million to the TIF projections that we had on the previous slide to kind of estimate how much you're going to collect for the remaining life of the TIF area.
I think 5.8 something was the net number, including on hand collected.
I think we might need to subtract 180,000 from that though,
Yeah.
because I don't think
Okay,
we had
that
done that.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, so 5.6,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then page 9. This is a schedule that we've shown in here for years. It just kind of shows if we didn't have the TIF area this year in 2026, what tax rates would look like. So top part of the slide shows, all the different tax units that make up Washington Township, the county, the township, the school, and the solid waste district. All those tax rates combined add up to the $1.63. Take the $1.63 times the captured assessment of the real and personal property of $87 million that you see in the box there, and that's how we generate the $1.4 million of TIF that you collect. If we were to end the TIF area, or if the TIF area ended in 2026, and we didn't capture that $1.4 million, that $87 million would be added to the tax base. So if you look at this county, for instance, if you look at the very top line, kind of start at the far right, you can see the county's budget that's payable from property taxes is $15,157,000. The tax base of the county, so this is all the assessment in the county except for what's in the TIF areas, both county and city, is $2,070,000,000. So the county has to levy a 73-cent tax rate on all the taxpayers in the county to be able to fund that budget of $15.1 million. So if you go down towards the bottom of the schedule, the county's budget, it can't change. It's dictated by the state. So just because if we were to end the TIF area and add more assessment to the tax base, we can't raise another penny more. So the budget doesn't change. It's still $15,157,000, but you see the tax base now increases to $2,158,000,000, because now we're passing through that $87 million. So now the county only has to levy a tax of 70 cents and just generate that same budgeted amount. So it's almost a 3-cent rate reduction. So if you kind of go through that same exercise through all the different taxing units, you can see that the tax rate, if we didn't have the GPC TIF area for 2026, tax rate would have went from $1.63 to about $1.52. So about 11-cent tax rate reduction for Washington Township. And then there are a couple of funds that would receive new funds, the county CCD fund and the township's Cume Fire Fund, because those funds are rate driven. So as the assessments increase, you can generate more revenue.
So, I mean, philosophically, I've always been generally anti-TIF. And I've had my preconceptions that it takes money away from the overlapping tax districts. So if we dissolve this TIF district today, we're going to go from a 163 to a 152 rate for next year, which is 7.1% decrease. If you have $3,000 of property taxes, that's $213 a year for $3,000 total property tax bill, which is 58 cents a day for every taxpayer who has an average property tax bill of 3,000. So if you have a $6,000 property tax bill, which is probably on the higher side on personal, we could save the taxpayers $1 a day in property taxes by dissolving this TIF. We're not going to get the school any more money, but from what I understand, they'll be able to borrow more money if we dissolve this TIF. Their debt ratio or whatever changes. And that's way out of my lane, but there's no direct dollar benefit to the schools, but I think there is lending benefits to the schools if we dissolve this TIF. But this TIF it expires in January of 27. So really, we're retiring it 1 year. We'd be retiring it 1 year early at this point in time. So, because if we keep the TIF in place, everyone pays 50 cents to $1 more per day if they have $3,000 to $6,000 in property taxes. So that's really the net impact that we're having if we keep a decision open to keep the TIF going. It's 50 cents to $1 per day per taxpayer. So, which every dollar is important. If I wanted to kind of quantify that, because collectively it's a lot of money, but individually it's not necessarily rate limiting. But the TIF district has to be there for a purpose, so to speak, or else we need to get rid of it. So. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
11 and a half cents spread out over.
yeah, I mean, if you think about it, right now, GPC, this $1.4 million of taxes they're paying, if we end the TIF area, that's $1.4 million less that everyone else in the county has to pay. So spread that out amongst everyone else in the county. I mean, it's not going to be exactly, because people who live in Washington Township and in the Washington School District will see a bigger benefit than outside that district. But yeah, you're right. We're just by keeping the TIF area going, if that's why you decide, we're just delaying that property tax relief.
I see what you're saying. So it's not a 7.1% benefit countywide.
No.
It's going to be a bigger benefit at Washington Township and then a smaller. So
Yes.
it's actually going to be a greater savings per property taxpayer in Washington Township
Yes.
if we dissolve it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone will see everyone will see some benefit because everyone pays the county's tax rate. So everyone will see at least a 3-cent rate reduction. But those who live in, the Washington School District, they're going to see the biggest rate reduction. Yeah, so it's not everyone's going to be impacted equally.
Equally. Okay, that's helpful.
But I think your point, and I know we've talked about this for years, you don't want to have a TIF area, just have a TIF area and collect money. You want to make sure that you have projects to be funding for it, because what you don't want to do is pass through this assessed value and then reduce taxes by 11 cents and then find out, okay, there's a project that we want to do, and now we're going to do a bond and raise taxes, when this is probably the more efficient way of doing it. But if you don't have any projects, yes.
Get rid of it. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
The next few slides is just the bonds that have been issued, and again, they've all been paid, so I'll kind of skip those. But there's, I think, 4 or 5 bonds that have been issued for the GPC area over its life. But again, those all have been paid either at maturity or ahead of schedule. So then, if you skip to page 15, the county does have a second TIF area, the Westgate Economic Development Area. There's a little verbiage in there about it, but if you look at that's the last sentence, it ends in 2034. So its last year of collection would be January 2034, paid 2035. So it has a little bit longer lifespan. Page 16 looks at the estimated tax increment. You can see in 2025, we estimated 123,000. You actually collected 149,000. And that's because in 2024, I looked back at our last report, we collected about $15,000 less than what we anticipated. So I think that's where there were some delinquencies, people not paying their taxes on time. and then they paid it in 2025, so that's why we collected more than what we anticipated. And then 2026, you can see that we are anticipating an increase because there have been some new development out in this area, some new buildings that have come online. So that new investment has come online. We're anticipating the tax increment to increase to about $288,000. And then we are showing a slight decrease in TIF, and that's because of Senate Bill 1 with the additional deductions and exemptions from the 2%. There are some taxpayers that fit in with that category. So as those deductions continue to phase in 2031, we are anticipating that would reduce your tax increment slightly. But again, in this area, again, funds can be used for any capital projects in serving or benefiting the area. Also, you know, it can also be used now for operating for police and fire, if you wanted to. I would not recommend that as a budgeting tool, because just like GPC, that TIF area ends, so it's not something that you want to use and then not have in a couple of years, so you don't want to have that accounted for. Page 18 is the historical tax increment for Westgate. Page 19 is the current balance in that allocation area. And then on page 20, I did the same exercise, that if you were to end this area, you could see a separate 3-cent tax rate reduction by passing through the $19 million that you capture in this area. And then after that, I've just listed the bonds that have been issued in this area as well, that, again, those have been paid off either at maturity or ahead of schedule as well. Before I talk about some of the new legislation, I'd be happy to answer any questions on the TIF areas or.
Something that we've talked about recently inside of benefiting or serving the area. So maybe just speak to that. Any projects that are inside of serving or benefiting the area.
Yeah.
Those are eligible, correct?
Yes, I mean, now you're not an attorney, but from what project that we've done, it can be pretty broad. I mean, as long as you can say in a straight face that the project that you want to do is benefiting the TIF area, you can pretty much use the TIF for that. If it's capital, you know, operating, it's much more restrictive on what it can be used for. Pretty much just police and fire. Some of the new legislations that came out that impacted TIF, really just two major ones. One, as you know, by June 15th, the board has to make a determination whether you want to pass through any assessed value or not. Work with the auditor's office on that. So that has to be done by June 15th, but you're required to do that letter. And if you do not do that letter and provide it to the auditor's office by June 15th, the auditor is required to automatically pass through 5% of each of the TIF areas. So as long as, if you want to keep 100% of your TIF, make sure you provide those letters to Jessica before then. And then the other one is residential TIF areas. I don't know if we've really talked much about residential TIF areas here in this county, but they are becoming more popular just because of the need of housing. They did increase the life of residential TIF areas from 20 years to 25 years. So I know that's kind of a key component in some communities.
I got a question from left field here. Since this property tax is gonna be shrinking, there's gonna be some income tax replacing it. That be TIF'd?
The income tax? Not at this time, no. I mean, I guess there are some, I mean, you guys have kind of a CRE district here, but special district that can capture income taxes. But I don't know if you can even create those anymore. So typically, no, it's just the property taxes that can be captured.
Thank you.
Bob, did you have a comment?
Yes. Yeah, no, if you want to expand a TIF area, create a TIF area, it's the same process. Redevelopment starts with the redevelopment commission, where you would amend the plan, amend the declaratory resolution, goes to plan commission, the commissioners, and then back here for a public hearing.
Just to speak to the school's impact on expiring these TIFs early, as Nathan mentioned, it's not money that goes to the schools. It does impact the borrowing capacity. I will speak to our local schools. We're not, the capacity within the tax rate to borrow more really doesn't limit us as much as having to take these projects to voters because of the size of them. So we're right now not capped upon just tax rate limits. It's more, and I know Washington has ran into that, where they brought something to the taxpayers from a capital expenditure. Referendum, yes, capital referendum. So the size of those projects will determine whether you have to go to voters to get those passed.
Okay.
Any other questions for Jason before we move on? We're running into commissioner time, but
No, those guys don't talk about anything important
No,
anymore.
not at all.
it's fine. Totally fine.
Jason,
Jason, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, the next thing we want to talk about is.
Matt, if I could stop you real quick, the
Yep.
annual TIF report for my gateway submission is a part of your packet for review and approvals, because that was due. Make sure that you guys get a motion that you've seen that. the
Everybody
minutes.
has seen it.
Yeah.
Does anybody
Thank you.
have any questions about that?
I couldn't hear what she said, sorry.
This is the submittal that we have for Gateway.
I can't.
We gotta make a motion that everybody's seen it and approves it at this point, so that she can. Is there any questions or comment over that submittal?
Comments?
No, I don't.
I'll make a motion to approve
So
them.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. Nathan, I'll let you field this one. This is the YMCA letter of intent.
Sure, we should have a copy in there perhaps. I believe.
It's right here on the last page.
So, real quick, we brought this to the council and the commissioners probably in the fourth quarter of '25 regarding the new YMCA facility that's being proposed. We're working with Princeton and Jasper, and GPC is an early supporter of this project. They submitted a letter asking us to keep the GPC TIF district in place and to apply as many of the funds as the county sees fit to this project. Real short and sweet, Princeton and Jasper, they funded their project 60 to 80% through the municipalities. We're asking for a 32% funding here in Davies County. $25 million project, 17 million of that will come from other sources. And then 8 million would come from the county and the city if the county so chooses. The city has already voted for their 3 million. And the letter of intent just simply states that we would pledge up to $5 million.
That second one is demonstrated need.
Someone put,
Well, it's,
oh, I see.
it's 4, and then that, once we have demonstrated
Okay, I haven't seen this version yet. Okay, but basically from 10,000 feet, that the county would pledge up to $5 million if the funds are available. Now, the TIF is going to be tight, but in the TIF district, we ideally want to fund the fire departments, the road improvement, and the Y project, in those 3 buckets. So the Y would be last, and it's only if the monies are available. So the way this reads is basically they'd support the project up to $4 million with the TIF fund, and then that we are prepared to consider an additional donation of $1 million contingent on demonstrated need and capacity, which really was what the ask was. This is a much more articulate way of stating it. So that would be the letter of intent that we would need to keep the capital campaign moving forward. Obviously, this is not a legally binding agreement. And then the TIF, we can dissolve it 1 year early or keep it in place and fund a project that would benefit Davies County and Washington Township. So that's the ask.
Bring that before the rest of the board.
I remember, is that what the original, Nathan, it was like a total of, was 5, we was gonna use,
The original was
was
4.
was 4
and
plus
then-
plus $1 million for
That was to be
Fire?
considered late, it was $1 million for 2 years to fund different EMS type of situations.
Yeah, it was EMS.
So one thing, so this is
And then
it contingent upon we have funds to do the rest of that.
So it's fire, road, and then the Y, so.
I think it was EMS, fire, and then the Y.
Yep.
EMS was first, yeah.
Yep, I'm lumping it all into
Right,
that
right,
one, yeah.
And then one thing, do we want to discuss some of these, or do we want to push some of these? These are some of the stuff for the fire and stuff that were submitted.
Yeah, for the fire, I think we can go to fire. So on the fire, the fire districts, when we started this conversation back in September with the fire departments, I was agreeable to help fund some of the local fire departments if they were agreeable to look into the fire districts. So far, they are doing that. So we've got them all moving forward. The pace is slowing down a little bit. Our invoice for this bid for this fire equipment expires April 30th. So I reached out to Scott Myers this morning on the way here, and I simply stated that, look, it's been 3 months. We've got to get these resolutions signed. If the local fire departments miss that 4/30 deadline for that invoice and the price goes up, the price difference goes to those fire departments. And the money is only dispersed if they sign the resolution to join a fire district. Otherwise, in 10 years, they're coming back with the same problem. So there's 2 catches. One, they've got to sign the resolution by April 30th because we've had 3 months. And 2, if they miss that, they fund it. And if they don't move forward with the fire district, then I would not be able to support any funding for gear. They're all supportive of the fire districts from what I'm hearing. There's just questions. But after 3 months, we got to get this
So at
moving
this
forward.
point, this is really tabled until
So
they sign.
the Odin piece of it would be tabled because that's going to be a total different funding mechanism.
Correct.
So the Odin request would not need to be considered, but the Scott Myers bid that he submitted would need to be
Because all of those people are,
moving forward. Yeah. So assuming they move forward, assuming they sign it, then,
But do we want to make sure that they're signing and moving forward?
well, I think we can make the motion contingent upon that, so that we don't have to meet again. Yeah.
So before we do the letter of intent, do I have a motion for the fire department?
moved.
So, EC, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mike Haley. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay, so that contingency
Yep.
as record.
Yep.
Okay. And then everybody's read their letter of intent from the Y. Is there any discussion over that? If not, do I have a motion to approve the letter of intent?
So moved.
Moved by Mike Haley. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Michael. And all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposition, same sign? Of course, as president, I do not vote. Right. Greg, SIDC.
I'm gonna breeze through this, so I don't
appreciate that.
let you cut into everybody's. Grab one.
Thank you.
Okay. So, and what I'm doing, so I'm Greg Jones with Southern Indiana Development Commission. These first 4 pages are really not what I'm here to talk to you guys about. This just tells you a little bit about what SIDC does for the region. You'll see on the left-hand side different projects that we're working on or have helped get funded for the region. And then on the right side, you'll see a bunch of numbers there. Those numbers are grant dollars that we've helped bring in for the different counties. And so it's substantial. We work on projects that are planning, infrastructure, public facilities. We've been in the defense world lately with all the growing that's happening at the Westgate Authority. Housing, and doing a lot of owner-occupied rehabilitation, helping out with EPA and brownfield assessment and redeveloping brownfield sites, clearance projects, historic preservation, traffic counting, asset management, and then other regional efforts that we work on a daily basis. All that sums up to kind of on that 4th page, there's a statement there that says, for every dollar that the county puts into SIDC, they're getting $113 back. So that's a great rate of return. We'd all take that on any one of our portfolios, but that just shows you some of the impact that we've had. One of the projects that has been near and dear to our hearts is SIDC has helped establish the Indiana Uplands Regional Land Bank. We saw a need whenever we were dealing with a lot of communities in brownfield industrial sites that the housing was getting left unattended. And there were a lot of blighted, dilapidated properties throughout our county. And someone needed to, make an effort to clean those properties up. SIDC worked with Ready dollars to help establish a 6-county regional planning commission. We are the only regional land bank in the state of Indiana, and very few in the nation. Doing things regionally always makes things harder, but it's worth it in the end. And so I want to give you some metrics on this, because the land bank will run out of grant funding in September, and there will be an ask of the county. And so, like many asks, it doesn't always stay with commissioners or stay with the council. It often flows to other tools that the county has at their disposal. So I just want to make you aware, if anything comes down to you on the land bank, that you know who I am, you know what we do. So far, the land bank has researched over 4,000 properties in the 6-county area. Right now, we own 14 properties. 3 are in the rehabs, and we've got Bobby Abel here that manages the department for me. And then 4 demos that are going on currently. We've got 3 under renovation contracts, and that's really important to have a renovation contract on it, because what it does is when the land bank takes over the property, gets it to the point where it can be redeveloped, we guarantee by having these renovation contracts with the prospective purchaser that they have to do what they say they're going to do within a certain amount of time frame. So if they're going to build a house, if they're going to build a rental unit, if they're going to really do any of those things to get the site back functioning and creating property taxes, that contract holds them to that. And if they don't do it, then it comes back to the land bank, and it doesn't fall back into the tax sale process, which could take another 3 years before you could gain access to the site. We've got 3 properties that will become under our ownership in 2027. So we have a total of 20 properties. The land bank's been in existence for 2.5 years. Most land banks don't get their first property until 3 years in. So for us to be able to manage to take control over 20 properties, I think we've got the pedal to the gas with our land bank. We've assisted a lot of the local contractors in our area for yard maintenance, cleanup, inspection, title work, survey, demolition, tree removal, builders, and developers. And so there's a lot of awarded local contracts that way, to where our grant dollars are going back to help those local contractors. We've paid property taxes, about $35,000 in property taxes have been paid. There's a lot of times where the exemption process doesn't allow us to take that exemption, so we end up paying the property taxes before we can get an exemption put in place. And then of all the properties that we've acquired, the assessed value is around $564,000, and it's estimated to generate $3,675,000 in assessed value once reconditioned, redeveloped. So that's about a 6.5 times rate of return on the properties. And again, we're just trying to get properties that aren't on the tax roll back on the tax roll, and somebody living in a nice new home, right? So there's a lot of lessons with the land bank, too many lessons to really count. But it takes on average 9 to 18 months to take ownership of a project or a home. And really, even if it's a donation, it could take 9 months. No 2 properties are the same. Each, in the different commissioner sale, tax sale, however we take ownership of those properties, really everyone has been different in the types of liens and things like that we've had to remove to get those clear title. Code enforcement's a critical piece for local communities. It really does help the pipeline of projects that could come in for the land bank. And doing things right, so like getting the inspections, following the legal process, doing the environmental remediation that may need to take place, the lien removal to get those properties so that moving forward, the title is clean. Always takes more time and more money. So we try and do everything right within the land bank. One of the things that is a legislative issue is that there's a lot of LLCs and venture capital groups that are going to commissioner sales, tax sales, and buying the properties there. And they do it not because they want to turn the property into a viable house or a viable rental in the future. They do it because it's a guaranteed investment for them. So if someone comes in and pays off the taxes on it, pays off all the back things, there's like could be up to like a 10% rate of return on that piece of property for those venture capital groups. And so they're just doing it as an investment tool. It's a loophole in the system. And so we're fighting against that with a lot of our bidding processes that we're up against. And they really are driving up the prices of a lot of these properties and keeping them in a dilapidated state. So we may have some legislative asks that we have in the future. But most land banks take 7 years to be successful. And ours has been, I think, pretty successful in 2.5 years. So
I have a quick
Yeah.
question. First of all, love the land bank, love
yeah,
you guys have been a big partner for many counties, obviously your
Yeah.
district, so I appreciate that. Clarification on the 113, which is for every dollar county puts in 113, is that like literally specific, like Davis County has put in this much money, you've given $113 per dollar back in return, or is that
right.
overall?
That's
Do
SIDC
you
overall.
know county,
What's that?
you know Davis County's part by any chance?
Not
Could
the
you get
exact
that?
number. I could give you the exact
Yeah,
number on it.
love to
I
see
tend to, we do it as a region. We're all working together.
Yeah.
So, but we've got a lot of irons in the fire for
Yes.
Davies County.
Yeah.
And even.
Ours
you know,
might be more even, because this is an average.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
we
Yours
don't even know, yeah.
actually would probably trend a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And we've got a couple projects. We're working on as the land bank, working on the Tokheim property, and that is potential about 34
Yeah.
million in housing redevelopment there.
We
So-
get that going, that's.
yeah, and then everything with the Westgate. So
That was
yeah.
it, yeah. If
Yeah.
you could send that,
yeah,
That'd
I
be
can
great.
send you your rate of return. You're getting better value out of us.
yeah, yeah.
I
So-
do want to be respectful
Yeah.
to the commission's time.
Yep.
I know these guys have a lot on their agenda. Greg, you're doing a great job.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
I was at the end of my presentation, so I really appreciate you
Thanks,
guys'
Greg.
time. So
Awesome. Thank you for all the hard work you're doing.
yep,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you.
Well, you guys could have started and then you could have.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Quickly, appreciate everybody being here, and we got a lot of things done. I do have something quick for you to sign.
And
One
on that
thing-
next meeting too, just an FYI, the 10th, probably, the 9th, we have a solid waste meeting.
So the 10th,
So the 10th probably would work best for the commissioners, but
I'd rather keep it
10th
one
of-
day, but that's,
What month?
it's
June.
June 9th or
since
10th.
we got solid waste, I don't know, maybe we can do all three?
can we do all three? That works better for me.
Okay.
We'll fit it all on the 9th then.
Can you do it on the 9th, Matt?
Yeah, we can make it work, yep. Actually, yeah, that will be
Someplace
fine.
here for me to sign.
It should be next page. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved by TC, do I have a second?
Second.